we are going to spend the majority of the time looking at the new IT support case process. So for tier 1 and tier 2 support cases, that's what we'll mostly be looking at, but I do want to start from the very beginning so that I can show you start to finish a person who goes to the community and enrolls or registers and then completes the assessment to have an appointment scheduled for testing. And then I'll jump over to Salesforce and show you how the caseworker or the greeter logs into Salesforce, picks up that case, can check the person in. That'll probably take, I don't know, 10 minutes, and some of you might have already seen that before. And then we'll go into the new case process. So does that sound good? All right.
Yep.
Okay, so starting from here, clicking on the click here to register and complete new assessment. So we'll go ahead and create a brand new user. That way we are showing the full start to finish. I will let my computer autofill some of these details here. I want to make sure that I have a new email address that I'm testing with here. So Caitlin Gregory demo at cloud. Gender, phone number, date of birth, and I want to get a new password in here. Okay, and then just checking my boxes. Yes, I'm 18 years of age or older. I understand the information, and I consent. I'll go ahead and sign up. All right, so now I am registered and it is taking me into the assessment piece. So first I will enter my address. All right, and now I'm going on to my qualifying questions. Do I have a fever? Yes. Do I have a cough? Yes. Shortness of breath? Yes. As you know, if I were to enter no, then I would not qualify for the assessment at this point in time. So I'm going to make sure that everything here says yes and click next. And then we have 6 questions here. One of these has to be yes, so I'll make sure that I say yes, I have been in contact with a COVID-19 case, and then the rest of these can be no, and I will still qualify because I have one of these 6 answers as yes. So go ahead and click next here. All right, and now I have to choose the location that works best for me. So I'll select the TIAA bank field location and click next. And then my last step is to select my service appointment time. So it's Monday. I want to have this test done as soon as possible. It's 2 o'clock for me. So I'm going to say, let's select the 2:45 to 3 p.m. appointment. And as you can see, these appointment times are all in 15-minute increments. And I'll click next. Okay, so that is all that I have to do as a person within the community. I have this information that tells me that my appointment time, my patient name, the status is scheduled. I see that I have the address of the testing location. If I go over to my email and I'll just have my confirmation that I just scheduled an appointment for 2:45 p.m. So, and then if I click this link here, it takes me to that appointment page in the community that just confirms all of the information that I basically just entered. So, the next thing that I'll do is hop over into Salesforce, and I am showing you the process for a caseworker. So I'm in my DMG caseworker app, and I'm on the cases tab, and you'll see that I have selected the TIAA bank field scheduled list view. So this is just showing me a list of all of the records for this specific location where the status is scheduled. And if I want to see what specifically or in more detail of what I'm looking at, I can click on this filters button here, and this shows me that I'm looking at all cases, regardless of who owns the case. I'm looking at cases where the status is scheduled, the record type is care for COVID, and my service appointment territory is TIAA Bankfield. So that's all correct for me. This is the location that I'm working. You can see the case, obviously the case records and individual information here. And then I like to look at the date and time opened. So I want to look at the one that I just submitted here. Although, as you can see, we are doing a ton of testing. So there are a ton of records here. So let me reorganize this and pick up the one that I just submitted, which would be this one. If you remember, I put in Caitlin Gregory at demo 11. So that is definitely the case that I just submitted. And I'll click on my case number to open that up. And this is the case, and it really just has all of the information that I entered from the community. So it pulled over my phone number, my email, my appointment time, my symptoms, fever, cough, and shortness of breath, my gender, birth date, my age, and then all of those questions that I answered are listed under symptoms and screening. So everything's here, nothing's missing. So I think everything's coming over from the community correctly. And what I want to do next is simply check this person in. Let's say that they have arrived for their appointment, and as a caseworker, I'm responsible for checking them in. So I just click this check in for test button. Okay, and do I need to register another person? I'm going to say no, it's just me today. Click next. And that's it. I have checked this person in, so I can close this tab and then go back to my cases list view and continue to check people in as they arrive. That is it for that piece of it. So next I will go into the stuff that you haven't seen yet. So the next part of it is IT support cases. So we're still working with cases. This is just a different type of case. And the record type specifically is called IT support. And so I'll show you the process to create an IT support case. DMG's customers would be the ones submitting these cases. And then you all would be receiving these cases and working them and closing them out. So the first step is just to show how your customers can submit a case. So to do that, I'm going to show you this global action. It's this plus sign up here at the top. Super simple to submit a case. So if you click on this plus sign, you'll see a drop down. And then you'll see something new here that says new IT support case. And this window will pop up, and all you have to do is enter a subject and a description to get your case created. And then you would jump back into the case to add any additional information. But the goal is to make it as simple as possible to get a case into the system. As you can see, I haven't actually entered my name yet. That's because we've done some stuff behind the scenes so that we can pull that information. That way we're making sure that they don't forget to enter something like their name, you know, where we really need to know who we're working with. So this is the name of the person submitting the ticket, and it pulled it from the user that I'm logged in as, Caitlin Admin. And then our status is new, should not have to change anything there. And then I'll enter just a subject and a description, and I'll go ahead and click save. All right, so my IT support case has been created. To receive those support cases, very similar to how you would receive a case that came in through the community, it's just by changing your list view. So what I'll do is go to IT support cases, or I could have even gone to the other one that said open IT support cases. That might make it a little bit easier so that I can drill down and see cases that are still open. As you can see, I just entered this one at 2:15 p.m. It has a case number, it has the subject that I entered, the status of new. I haven't put in a priority yet. And the case owner is the tier 1 IT support queue. Okay, so I'm gonna go to my email and do a refresh here and just show you that I did get an email because I'm a member of that queue. So anyone in that queue is gonna get an email saying a case has been created. And it just tells you the case number and then a quick link. I don't need to click on this because I'm already there in Salesforce, but if I wasn't in Salesforce, I could click on this and it would take me straight to that case record. So going back to where I was on my case that I just submitted, I mentioned earlier that we tried to pull in as much information from the user record that we could. So I want to point some of that stuff out. My case record type is IT support. I talked about the name. I also pulled in the company name, the phone number, and the email address from my user record. So they don't have to enter that information. However, let's say that their phone number was really their mobile and they want you to call their office phone instead of their mobile. They can change it if they need to. So all of these fields are still editable to them. It just helps in case they forget. So it's already there just in case. I want to point out this contact name and account name field. So I would imagine that this is something that would not be populated too often, but this allows your customers to tie a case specifically to a contact or an account if they need to do that. So if this specific customer has gone to the community and they're having an issue and they needed to create a case related to that customer, or I'm sorry, that person, this would allow them to do that. And then under additional information, you can see status, case origin. It's defaulting to internal, but we do have some additional values here as well. Easily customizable if you needed to add or remove a value here, but most of these cases I believe would be, the origin would be internal. So that's why we have that defaulting. And then we have case type. So creating a user, adding a location, a report request, or a technical issue. Again, if you need us to add additional values here or remove any, just let us know and we can do that. And then priority, high, medium, low, of course. And then case reason, user didn't attend training, complex functionality, existing problem, instructions weren't clear, or new problem. That's really it. Aside from this one down here, internal comment. So this just allows you to really write anything you want. It's an open text field. So anything related to this case that you want to document with the case, you can add in. But we're not collecting a ton of fields. Not a ton is required here. So pretty simple case layout. And then up at the top, you can see your statuses. So we're in new because this is a brand new case. We also have open, escalated, and closed. And I'll talk a little bit more about how these work as we work through the case. So there are two scenarios that I'm going to go through. The first one is just going to be a case where it comes into tier 1 support. That's you all. And you work it and it's, something that you can solve and you can close it out without having to escalate it to Coastal Cloud or to tier 2 support. So let's go through that one first really quickly. Basically, like I said, fill out any additional information here related to the case. And then also accept it. So accepting the case is how you take it out of the queue and how you put it into your name. So to do that, it's really simple. There is an accept button right here. As you can see, case owner, tier 1 IT support queue. Once I click accept, I am now the owner of this case, Caitlin admin. And we automated this a little bit so that you don't have to also change the status. So the status before was new. Once I've accepted it, now it's open. So open is really meaning someone has looked at this case and picked it up and it's being worked. And as a member of the queue, I don't need to pick it up because somebody is already working it, okay? Like I said, we're not going to go through the escalation process on this scenario. We'll do that on the next one. So what we'll do here is just really all there is left to do is close this out. Let's say that I have resolved the issue. I just want to change the status of the case to closed. So I click closed right here and I select my closed status and I click save. And now the case is closed. If I were to go back to my case view of all open support cases and just do a little refresh, that case will no longer be under my open cases because it's now closed. So the next one, I'll just create another one really quickly here to demonstrate the escalation process. Okay, refresh my list view, and there it is, the one that I just created. So step one here is for you guys to pick this up. And so to do that, so I've accepted it. It's in my name, it's in an open status, but I have determined that this is a technical bug. This is something that we're not able to fix. They're getting an error that's foreign to me. I have no clue what to do here. I need to get this in Coastal Cloud's hands. All you would do is change the case owner to the Coastal Cloud queue. So case owner, there's this little person icon here. If you hover over it, it says change owner. So I will click change owner. It's always going to default to a search by people. And so that's an actual user in the system. But for this scenario, I want to change the owner to a queue. So this is, if there's any gotchas in this whole process, I would say this is probably the only one, and it's very minor. Because if I just started to type tier 2 support here, it's not going to find anything for me because I'm not searching under queues. So just keep that in mind the first time that you get to this and you say, oh my gosh, I can't find Coastal Cloud support. It is most likely because you're on people instead of queues. Now that I'm on queues, I can search for tier 2 support, which is an actual queue. And so I will select tier 2 IT support queue. In parentheses, it says Coastal, so nobody gets confused. It automatically checks this box here because we want to send a notification email. So just make sure that you don't deselect that. Coastal would still be able to see the queue technically, but obviously this notification email is very important. So make sure that you just keep that selected and then click change owner. All right, so what I did here was I changed the case owner. You'll notice that I did not actually change the status, but it went ahead and updated for me. We have just a workflow behind the scenes here that's saying, if a case is changed to Coastal, show the status as escalated. And that's just helpful for when you're looking at a list view, you can see you know, what's in your queue and what's been escalated to Coastal Cloud. Coastal is going to have the same process really as you all. So when Coastal Cloud receives a case, they're also going to accept it. That way, you know that it's not just sitting in our queue. We have picked this up and we are actually working it. So I hit the accept button. I'm now the owner, and I'm really going to go through the same process of closing it out. But before I do that, I want to show you some features that you can use while working your case, like sending an email directly from your case, or logging an activity against your case, or chattering. So what I'll do is click on this chatter button. That's the first thing that I'll talk about here is chatter. So chatter is for, I put a little text here just explaining that this is for internal communications only. You're not going to chatter with your customers, but you might chatter with Coastal Cloud or internal people. So just to keep that in mind. When you click on the chatter tab, the first button here is post. This is how you post to chatter. And similar to social media like Facebook, you know, if you put the @ sign before you start typing someone's name, that is what allows you to tag them. Tagging them is what sends them an email. So if I didn't put an @ sign here, I could still post something, but it's just going to be related to this record. It's not going to be, it's not going to notify anyone. But if I do at Caitlin, please see this case and help. Now Caitlin is going to get an email. And that email will link them directly to this case. And then underneath that, you also have your feed, so you can kind of see everything that is happening, like changes to the case status, when it was created. So it also gives a good, you know, tracking system for everything related to a case as well. The next one is log a call. So let's say that you've had to make a phone call related to this case. Just click log a call. The subject is going to default to call. You can change it. Doesn't matter. You can leave it if you want to. If you want to make it more specific, you can. You can enter in comments. So this is kind of like your diary log, where if you want to remember what you talked about on the call, you would add details of call here. And that's all you have to do. Then you just click save, and now you have a record of your a record of the call to that case. Yes. Okay, the next thing is logging a task. So this is a little bit different from the call in that you are scheduling a future task to be completed at a future date or time. You can also change who this is assigned to. So it could be a task for yourself or you can assign it to someone else. So on my task subject, I have call, send a letter, send quote, other. I'll just say that I'm going to make a phone call. I have to select a due date. So I want to make this call next Monday, April 20th. Excuse me. Here's where I said I could assign this to someone else. To do so, I would just click the X and then start typing someone else's name, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep it assigned to myself. And then I'll just click save. And now I have a task, an uncompleted open task on this record. And I'll also see this on my homepage so that you have a list of your open tasks that have to be completed if you choose to use this feature. Okay, and then the last one is the ability to send an email straight from Salesforce. So all you have to do is click on this email tab and it automatically defaults obviously the from line, and then it does automatically BCC you as well. So I would enter just who am I sending this to? And then, type out my email and click send. I'm not gonna, bore you with writing an actual email there, but click send, and I'll go back to my email here in a second once it loads and show that I did in fact receive that email. And that is this one right here. And I just wrote hello. So it's pretty accurate. That's what I wrote. So that is another feature. I don't know if you guys have seen that yet, but I wanted to show your case in Salesforce. Okay, so I think my last step for this case process is really just to close this out. So I've shown you how users can submit a case, how you can accept it, how you can escalate it to Coastal Cloud. It's currently in this escalated status. Now I just need to close it. Same way as if you were to close the case, I just click on this closed status, select the closed status, and click save. Okay, and that's it.
Yeah, is there a way to open a case on behalf of for example, the caseworker? If they called in on a toll-free line, you'd want to open a case for them.
Yes, there is nothing that is going to limit you from being able to open an IT support case. Tina, I might need your help just thinking through this.
Yeah, to search for that caseworker, basically, to assign it and bring up all the information that you already.
Right. So I guess you would. Well, no, because it's going to go to the queue of the caseworker. So I don't think you would have to do anything special. I think you would just basically do exactly what I did. And because you're creating it from here, that's making it a support case or an IT support record type. And then it would go to that queue. So I think the process would be exactly the same.
You would just create a new case versus using the global action. You wouldn't use a global action. You would actually create a new case and choose the record type. We can include screenshots for that in the guide when we send it to you.
Okay. Makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, our global action at the top is assuming that we want to keep it as simple as possible. And when you bring on your first clients who are actually using your applications, we'll have very simple, short, and very easy to follow. You need to log a case. That's what the global action is, the top right-hand corner. Whereas for you all, we'll have the more detailed, how to open up a new case and then how to make sure you attribute it correctly to them.
Okay. The next thing I'll show you then, that was, like I said, kind of the bulk of the training today, but I do want to show you the documentation that we've started to put together. So this is the DMG IT support case process. There are a couple of ad hoc items on here that we haven't talked about yet, so we'll talk about those next. But we already covered creating a case, accessing a case from your list view, accepting one, transferring to tier 2 support. So we got really all the way down to sending an email from Salesforce, and then the last 2 items are creating a Salesforce user and how to load data to Salesforce. So these are 2 steps that we're just talking through today. We're not actually going to do this, but I want to show you that we have really started to kind of document what that would look like. So I'll go down to creating a user. Nope, sorry, scrolling too fast. So this is something that you would do from the setup menu. So the setup menu is this gear icon here. You would navigate to setup. Setup menu is pretty intuitive. So you would just type in users and go to the users tab, and then you would click new user. And then I've just screenshotted the information that you want to make sure that you set. Obviously general information, you know, we want to have that. We have to have an email and a username and that sort of thing. But then we talk through what the role should be. The user license has to be Salesforce, and they have to be assigned to a specific profile. And then, you know, before you save it, you want to make sure that you do generate a new password and notify the user. That way they can get an email that has their login information. And then they can immediately change their password and set it to something, you know, personal. Okay. And then to make sure that they have the correct views, like case views, like I was showing you, you know, scheduled appointments and IT support cases, there are also some groups that you want to make sure that you assign them to. So I have some instructions here on assigning them to public groups, and that'll give them access to those list views. All right, moving on. This is the last piece, and this is kind of more of a conversation because we are not going to do a data load today. So this is specific to your locations or your service territories. And this is on setting up a new customer, also loading that customer's locations. And so what I want to do is just open up just a template that I have linked in this training document. And it just shows you the information that we need to be able to perform this load. And then if you got to the point that you wanted to be able to load these locations on your own, we would have to schedule a future training session specific to Data Loader, which is the tool that we use to do these loads. But Coastal Cloud will be handling these loads for now. So this is what the file looks like. This is just, obviously sample data. There are 2 tabs. There would be one file specific to the location. So the site name, address information, information about their site hours, and, days of the week that they're open, that kind of stuff. And then if I go over to the staff tab, this is specific to their users. We can mass load their users as well. And we do have some pretty detailed documentation that we can provide around Data Loader, the tool and how it works. But if you're, newer to Salesforce, you definitely want to schedule a hand-holding session the first time that you go through it.